Pokemon Emerald, Sapphire and Ruby were amazing games. Generation 3 is actually my first generation, and in today's video I want to talk about why I think these are some amazing games. Starting off the list at number 10, we have that they have very iconic and cool cover legendaries. The ones I'm talking about are Kyogre, Groudon and Rayquaza. All three of them have very cool and unique designs. Don't want to throw too much shade at Generation 2 since it was fine, but they basically reused the same pattern of legendaries as the first game. So Gen 3 coming up and just pulling up with way different legendaries was amazing. Because Gen 1 had Moltres, Zapdos and Articuno, and then Generation 2 pulled the same thing with Raikou, Entei and Suicune, basically, almost the same. So Gen 3 switching it up was really nice. Okay, yeah, granted, those weren't the true cover legendaries. The cover legendaries for those generations were different monsters, but, well, you get where I'm coming from. The iconic line of legendaries, at least in this game, was way different, and I really liked that. Because I think the comparable legendaries are either Latios and Latias, or the Regis. But yeah, anyway, regardless, I really think the cover legendaries for these games were very cool. My number 9 is Battle Frontier in Emerald. This was the generation that created the Battle Frontier. It made its debut in Emerald. I'm not the biggest fan of Frontier, but I know a lot of people are. Some people still talk about Emerald in a beloved way because it did contain the Battle Frontier. The remakes of this generation did not include the Battle Frontier, which kind of makes them imperfect in a way, but yeah. The Battle Frontier is one of the reasons people still love Emerald to this day. My number 8 is very pleasing and good graphics. Now, you won't play this game because of the graphics. You don't think, wow, this looks amazing, I want to play it because of the graphics. But the art style looks nice. If it came out today, I could still easily see myself playing it, unlike the generations before this, because, wow. Generation 1 and 2 did build up the Pokemon we love, but the comparisons, those graphics were just awful. My number 7 is that it has a solid story that just works. Not too much hand-holding in it either, aside from a small tutorial on how to catch Pokemon. Aside from that, it's just 99% you actually going on an adventure. After playing Pokemon Ultra Moon, it made me very much appreciate this aspect because sure, Moon had a fun story, but just being able to actually explore the world, not being stuck in dialogue for 99% of my gameplay, is nice. And yeah, they're a bit cartoonishly villainly, either wanting to flood the map or getting rid of the ocean altogether, but yeah, it works. But number 6, that I feel like it has a huge variety in typing, especially in its wild Pokemon. I think some generations you encounter too much similar Pokemon in the wild. I think Emerald, Sapphire and Ruby fixed this by having a huge variety in wild Pokemon. At least to me it felt like that. Especially in the first few areas, you already encounter a Dark, you encounter a Psychic, you encounter a Water Flying, you encounter so many different typings. Newer gens also do this, I think, at least a few of them. Especially Scarlet Violet did as well. And I also feel like you come across a lot of specifically Generation 3 Pokemon early on, which is another nice thing. Sadly, you have to look at, once again, Generation 2, which didn't always do that as well. Too many of its Generation 2 Pokemon were locked in post-game. Here you actually came across them on time, and I like that. But number 5 is that it gives us an introduction to doubles. Doubles are still a lot of fun. 2 games, Colosseum and XZ Gale of Darkness, were built basically on doubles. Double battles have become a staple since. Some people basically swear by double battles and only want to really play double battles. They're just a lot of fun. One of the most enjoyable formats in Yu-Gi-Oh! Did I just say Yu-Gi-Oh? I just got done recording 7 Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos. They're one of the most fun ways to have fun in Pokemon. They have become a staple, and yeah. It was a nice twist on the existing Pokemon formula. My number 4 is that the difficulty feels very balanced. Maybe the most balanced difficulty outside of Black and White. Granted, this is a hard thing to quantify. But I feel like Generation 3 is the right level of challenging, without ever being too hard or too easy. There's also very strong Pokemon in the wild, so you have a way to build up your team if you're smart. So yeah, I think Pokemon Emerald and to an extent Ruby Sapphire were doing the right thing, difficulty-wise. My number 3 is that it has a huge variety of terrain, especially comparing this to previous games. The routes actually do feel unique. I would be surprised if many people that grew up with this game have their favorite route. A lot of the routes in this game looked unique. There was a lot of variety in the actual terrain. There was like this desert area, there was a volcano, there's water. Oh boy, there sure is water in this game. Yeah, but there's a lot of variety in the terrain. I think this and Generation 5 do it the best with their map. But number 2 is a bit biased, but I think Generation 3 was peak Pokemon design. I have a huge bias. Generation 3 is where my journey started. But I feel like this is where it's peaked, and I'm not saying it got bad afterwards. A lot of people hate on modern generations. I'm not hating on modern generations. I just think Generation 3 did it the best. The average was very, very high. Granted, I'm not entirely sure on top of my head which ones are Generation 2, which ones are Generation 3, because they do kind of blend together nicely in this game. For the longest time I thought Tyranitar and Larvitar were Generation 3 Pokemon. They are not. It does feel at home in Generation 3. But yeah, Generation 3 is absolutely loaded with nice Pokemon designs, also, especially the spin-offs like Colosseum and XD of Guild of Darkness, including Generation 2 and 1 on top of that, just basically makes it the best blend of 3 generations. I really liked it. My number 1 is specifically the iconic background music, the just outright amazing background music. I grew up playing this when I was young, and there were like a year or 10 where I barely played Pokemon. But one thing I did do is often listen to the soundtrack. The soundtrack still goes so hard, like for example Littlewood Town. I think this has the best, or at least most iconic background music. But that's because I grew up with it. Whatever your favorite Pokemon in the game is, probably has your favorite background music. I know it's this way for a lot of fans for Generation 5. Which, honestly, together with this, shares a lot of strong points. They're comparable good games in certain ways, I suppose. But yeah, I think Emerald is one of the best Pokemon games ever, especially for its time. So yeah, hope you all liked this video. If you want to see more top 10s like this, subscribe to the channel, because I plan to cover every mainline game like this in the future. Yeah, why did you like this Generation 3? Maybe you have a fond memory, maybe you have just a very cool Pokemon you think of. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!